This story is titled, "My Fiancé Dumped Me Before Our Wedding for Her Dying Ex. Years later, he's living it up after faking terminal illness." Hey everyone, I never thought I'd be sharing this story, but here we are. I'm 32 years old and make good money as a medical equipment sales representative. My life went from perfect to complete disaster so quickly that I'm still trying to process everything that happened. I need to get this off my chest, so buckle up because this is going to be a long one. Let me tell you about Kate. She was 27 when we met, and we had what I thought was a perfect relationship for 5 years before getting married. I met her at my friend David's house party back in 2018. I wasn't even planning to go that night because I'd had a rough week at work and just wanted to stay home. David had been bugging me to come out more, constantly trying to set me up with random girls since my last relationship had ended badly. I eventually gave in and went, never expecting that decision would change my life forever. The moment I saw Kate, everything changed. She was helping David's girlfriend with the appetizers, wearing this simple white summer dress that made her stand out from everyone else. She just looked so natural and real, not like those Instagram-obsessed girls David usually tried to set me up with. We started talking about how we both hate spicy wings, which is a pretty weird thing to bond over at a party, but it worked for us. We ended up talking for like 4 hours straight. You know those conversations that just flow perfectly? That was us from the very beginning. We became basically inseparable after that night. We started dating officially 2 weeks later, and Kate was everything I wanted in a partner. She was incredibly smart and worked as a pediatric physical therapist. She had this weird but adorable sense of humor that always made me laugh. She was naturally beautiful without being high maintenance at all. We clicked on every single level, same values, same life goals, and we even watched the same trashy reality shows together. The Bachelor was our guilty pleasure, and we'd spend hours making fun of the contestants while secretly loving every minute of it. We never had any of those typical relationship problems that plague most couples. There were no trust issues, no fighting over stupid stuff, none of that unnecessary drama. Sure, we had disagreements from time to time, but we always worked them out like adults. My friends would joke about me being whipped, but honestly, I didn't care. Kate made me want to be a better person, as cheesy as that sounds. She challenged me in all the right ways and supported me through everything. Fast forward to last year, I decided to propose during a mountain climbing trip because Kate loves all that outdoor stuff. I almost messed it up because I was so nervous, nearly dropped the ring off the cliff, which would have been a disaster. But she said yes, crying and laughing at the same time. It was one of the happiest moments of my life, watching her face light up as she realized what was happening. We started planning the wedding right away. Kate had always dreamed of getting married at this old, rustic barn venue about an hour outside the city. The place was expensive as hell, but seeing how happy it made her was worth every penny. I would have done anything to make her dreams come true. The wedding was absolutely perfect, and I'm not just saying that because I spent a fortune on it. Though seriously, why are weddings so damn expensive? The barn looked amazing, all decorated with fairy lights and wildflowers. Kate looked stunning in her dress, and I remember watching her that night dancing with her bridesmaids, thinking to myself that I couldn't believe how lucky I was. This amazing woman had actually chosen to spend her life with me. It felt like a dream come true. We had all these plans lined up for our future together. We wanted to travel more, maybe buy a house in the suburbs the next year, and start trying for kids in a couple of years. Kate even had names picked out already. She wanted to name our future son after her grandfather, which I was totally on board with. If someone had told me then what was about to happen, I would have laughed in their face. We were solid, or at least I thought we were. 2 months after our honeymoon in Croatia, which was incredible by the way, if you ever get the chance to visit Dubrovnik, definitely do it. Everything went completely sideways. It was a Thursday night, and I was at home cooking these fancy dry-aged ribeyes that I'd gotten from an expensive butcher downtown. They were crazy expensive steaks, but Kate loves a good steak dinner, and I wanted to surprise her. She'd been working crazy shifts at the clinic lately, and I thought she deserved something special. Kate was supposed to be home by 6 p.m., but I got a text saying she was meeting her best friend Nicole for a quick coffee. Nicole has always been, well, let's just say she's not my favorite person. She's one of those people who's always stirring up drama and then acts innocent about it. But she was Kate's best friend since college, so I tried to be cool about it and not let my dislike of her show too much. By 8:30 p.m., The steaks were getting cold, and Kate still wasn't home. I was getting pretty annoyed, not to mention hungry as hell. I figured they must be caught up talking about something important, so I tried to be patient. Kate finally got home around 9 p.m., and the second she walked in, I knew something was wrong. She had this weird look on her face, kind of like the expression she uses when she has to tell parents bad news at work. She didn't even notice the fancy dinner setup I'd prepared. She just said, "We need to talk," in this serious voice that I'd never heard her use before. I'm not going to lie. My first thought was that she was pregnant. We talked about waiting a couple of years before starting a family, but things happen, right? Honestly, I wish it had been that. What she told me next made me wish we were just having an unexpected baby. Kate sat down at our kitchen island and started telling me about her ex-boyfriend, Thomas. I knew about Thomas already. They had dated for 3 years in college and seemed pretty serious back then. Kate didn't talk about him much, but I knew they had ended things because he took a job across the country, and neither of them wanted to do long distance. It seemed like a clean break from what little she had told me. It turns out Nicole had run into Thomas's brother at the gym earlier that week. Thomas had stage 4 glioblastoma, which is basically this super aggressive brain cancer. Doctors had given him maybe 6 months to live. Tops. Kate had found out through Nicole and had apparently been texting with Thomas since then. She showed me their messages, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Who keeps texting their ex when their spouse is at home making dinner? There were dozens of messages back and forth about his diagnosis, his treatment options, and memories from their time together. While I was out spending stupid money on fancy steaks, my wife was having deep conversations with her dying ex. The messages weren't even inappropriate or anything. I almost wish they had been because it would have made what happened next easier to deal with. They were just full of emotional stuff. All that, "I never forgot about you" type of crap. And "you were such an important part of my life" bullshit. The kind of conversations you probably shouldn't have with an ex when you're literally married to someone else. Then Kate dropped the bomb. Thomas's dying wish was to spend his last months with her. Apparently, facing death had made him realize she was the one that got away, or some movie bullshit like that. And Kate, this still hurts to type. Kate told me she felt like she had to do this, like it was some kind of test from the universe or something equally ridiculous. The worst part? Nicole had been encouraging this whole thing. She told Kate it was fate that she found out about Thomas's cancer, that Kate would regret it forever if she didn't go to him, and that sometimes life gives us second chances for a reason. Yeah, real helpful, Nicole. Great advice for a newlywed. I just sat there in shock, staring at our fancy dinner getting cold, while my wife of 3 months told me about how she needed to go be with her dying ex. The same wife who'd been planning our future together just weeks ago, who still had a suitcase in our bedroom not fully unpacked from our honeymoon. The thing that really got me was how Kate was talking about it like it was some kind of noble sacrifice she had to make. "Thomas has no one else," she kept saying. "His family is all on the East Coast. How convenient, right? He's all alone facing death." Meanwhile, I'm sitting there thinking, what about me? What about your husband? What about the person you literally just promised to spend your life with? I asked her straight up if she still had feelings for Thomas. She started crying. Kate's one of those people who cry when stressed, which I usually found endearing, but at that moment, it just pissed me off even more. She said it wasn't about that this was bigger than our relationship, and that Nicole had helped her see that this was something she needed to do to be able to live with herself. Oh yeah, let's talk about Nicole for a minute. This girl has been a pain in my ass since day one. She's one of those perpetually single friends who always has to be involved in everyone else's relationship. The type who posts inspirational quotes about following your heart, but can't keep a relationship longer than 3 months herself. According to Kate, Nicole was the one who pushed her into this. After running into Thomas's brother, Nicole had set up a chance meeting with Thomas at their usual coffee spot. She'd been feeding Kate all this spiritual bullshit about how the universe brings people back into our lives for a reason, and sometimes first loves are meant to be last loves, and other garbage like that. I tried to be rational about it. I asked Kate if she'd seen any of Thomas's medical records herself, if she'd talked to his doctors, if she'd even verified the diagnosis with his family. She got defensive, saying she couldn't believe I was questioning something like this, that the Thomas she knew would never lie about something so serious. The Thomas she knew? Those words just kept echoing in my head as we argued. Want to know the most fucked up part? She actually expected me to be understanding about this. Like I should just be cool with my wife leaving me to go play nurse for her ex-boyfriend. She even suggested we could take a break while she helped Thomas through his final journey. Those were her exact words, I shit you not. As if marriage has a pause button you can press when convenient. I lost it at that point. I told her marriage doesn't have a pause button, that she couldn't just put our life on hold while she went to fulfill some dying guy's romantic fantasy. I asked her how she'd feel if I left her for an ex who was dying. She said that was different, but couldn't explain how. The conversation went in circles for hours. Kate kept talking about karma and doing the right thing, while I kept trying to make her see how insane this whole situation was. At one point she actually said, "If you really love me, you'll understand why I need to do this." Classic manipulation right there. Finally, around 2 a.m., I'd had enough. I told her she needed to make a choice right then and there. If she walked out that door to be with Thomas, we were done. No breaks, no temporary separation, no coming back when she was finished playing Florence Nightingale. Done. She looked at me like I was being unreasonable and started talking about how life isn't black and white, and sometimes we have to make hard choices. I cut her off and said actually this choice was pretty black and white. Either she was my wife or she wasn't. The way she looked at me then, I'll never forget it. There was this mixture of disappointment and resignation on her face, like I was the one failing some kind of test. She said she needed time to think, grabbed her purse, and left to stay at Nicole's. The sound of the door closing behind her was like a gunshot in the quiet of our home. I didn't sleep at all that night. I just sat in our kitchen, staring at those stupid, expensive steaks, wondering how my life had turned into this ridiculous drama. I kept checking my phone, thinking maybe she'd come to her senses and call me back. Then things moved pretty fast. Kate stayed at Nicole's for a few days, barely responding to my texts. Meanwhile, I was going through hell. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, just kept replaying everything in my head, trying to figure out where I went wrong. My buddy David, the one who hosted the party where we met, came over with Chinese food when I told him what was happening. He couldn't believe it either. We'd all hung out together so many times, double dated, gone on group vacations. And Kate had always seemed so normal, not the type to pull this kind of shit at all. Then about a week after she left, I got this long text from Kate saying she'd done a lot of thinking and had decided she had to follow her heart. Gag. She was moving in with Thomas to help him through his final months. She actually wrote that she hoped I could find it in my heart to understand. And maybe we could revisit our relationship after Thomas passed. Like I was just going to sit around waiting to be her backup plan. The next day I got an email from her lawyer. Not even a phone call, an email. She wanted a divorce and was hoping we could handle this amicably. I'll never forget sitting at my desk at work, staring at that email, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. I had to tell my boss I was sick and went home. Some of our friends actually took her side. They said I was being heartless and unsupportive. Like what? My friend Claire, who I thought was my friend first, actually told me I should be proud of Kate for being so selfless. Proud that my wife was leaving me for her ex? What kind of fucked up logic is that? I remember this one dinner with our couple friends where they tried to convince me to see it from Kate's perspective. They asked how would I feel if I knew I could give someone comfort in their final months, but chose not to. I straight up asked them if either of them would leave their spouse for a dying ex. They got real quiet after that. The worst part was everyone treating me like I was some kind of asshole for not being okay with this, like I was the bad guy for expecting my wife to actually honor our marriage vows. Even Kate's sister Lisa started posting these vague Facebook statuses about how true love means supporting each other's difficult choices, or some bullshit like that. When Kate's lawyer sent over the divorce papers, I got my own lawyer, a real shark of an attorney my brother recommended. I wasn't about to get screwed over twice. Kate apparently expected me to move out of our house, which I'd paid 70% of the down payment for, by the way. I told her she could buy me out if she wanted to, but I wasn't going anywhere. She seemed shocked that I wasn't just rolling over and giving her what she wanted. I think she expected me to be understanding about this whole thing right up until the end. The day she came to get her stuff was brutal. Nicole came with her, of course, and kept giving me these dirty looks like I was the villain in this story. They took 3 hours packing up Kate's things. Every time they walked past me with another box, Nicole would make these little huffing noises. I just sat on the couch drinking beer, watching football, and refusing to help. Kate tried to take our dog Max, a lab mix we'd adopted 2 years ago. That was the one time I really lost my cool. I told her there was no way in hell she was taking my dog to go live with her and her dying boyfriend. She started crying about how she needed emotional support during this difficult time. I just laughed and reminded her that Max was registered under my name and I'd paid all his vet bills. She left without him. The divorce itself was pretty quick since we hadn't been married long. Kate didn't fight me on anything financial. I think she felt too guilty. She even signed over her share of the house to me without argument. Her lawyer seemed surprised by that, but Kate just wanted it done fast so she could go play nursemaid to Thomas. After Kate moved out, the house felt huge, like way too empty. I threw out all her stuff right in the trash. My mom wanted me to start dating again right away. She kept trying to set me up with daughters of her friends from church. Thanks, but no thanks, Mom. My buddies tried dragging me to bars, saying I needed to get back out there, but honestly, I wasn't ready. The thought of trying to explain my situation to some random woman at a bar, "Yeah, my wife left me for her dying ex-boyfriend 2 months after our wedding," just seemed exhausting. Instead, I threw myself into work. I started taking all the overtime I could get. My boss was actually pretty cool about everything, letting me pick up extra projects to keep my mind busy. I made some decent money too, so that was a plus. But sitting alone in that house every night was killing me. I started having trouble sleeping, would wake up at 3 a.m., check my phone, half expecting to see a message from Kate saying this was all some fucked up mistake. Max was a lifesaver during this time. Having him there forced me to keep some kind of routine. I had to get up to walk him, had to come home at decent hours to feed him. He'd sit with me on the couch while I binged Netflix, probably wondering why I was watching so much Breaking Bad at 2 a.m. I started doing some home improvements too, just to keep busy. Fixing up the house gave me something to focus on besides the divorce. But the hardest part was dealing with social media. Kate didn't post much about her situation. I guess it's hard to make "left my husband for my dying ex" look good on Instagram. But mutual friends would share stuff. Pictures of her at dinner with friends, acting like everything was normal. Nicole's posts were the worst. All these cryptic quotes about following your heart and sometimes life has other plans. I had to block both of them eventually just for my own sanity. I lost some friends in the split too. Couples we used to hang out with started taking sides. Some people thought I was being an asshole for not supporting Kate's difficult choice. I still can't believe that. Others just felt awkward and stopped inviting me to things. That hurt almost as much as the divorce itself, watching our social circle fracture and realizing how many of those relationships were more superficial than I thought. My brother was actually the most helpful during this time. He'd come over with his kids, forcing me to get out of the house. Having my niece and nephew around made it impossible to just sit and wallow in misery. They didn't care about my divorce drama. They just wanted Uncle Jason to play with them and make silly faces. It was exactly what I needed. Fast forward a couple of months, and I was actually doing pretty good. I got promoted at work, bought a new truck, always wanted a Tundra, and was in the best shape of my life thanks to Brazilian jiu-jitsu classes I'd started taking. I even started dating a little bit. Nothing serious, but at least I could get through first date small talk without having a mental breakdown talking about my ex. Then one random Tuesday afternoon, my phone starts blowing up, like notifications going crazy. My first thought was that it was a work emergency or something important. Nope. It was Kate's number. I hadn't heard from her in over 3 months at this point. She was calling, texting, leaving voicemails, the works. I ignored it at first because seriously, what could she want after all this time? But then I got a text from Lisa, Kate's sister. Now Lisa and I stayed kind of friendly after everything. She actually apologized to me a couple months after the divorce, saying she couldn't believe how Kate had handled everything. So when she texted saying I really needed to hear what Kate had to say, I figured something serious must be up. I finally answered one of Kate's calls on my lunch break. She was hysterical, could barely understand what she was saying through the crying. At first I thought maybe Thomas had finally died. Yeah, I'm an asshole, whatever. But no, this was so much better. Turns out Thomas never had cancer, never had any kind of cancer. The whole thing was a lie. This dude faked an entire terminal illness because he saw our wedding photos on Instagram and decided he wanted Kate back. Let that sink in for a minute. He had faked everything. The medical reports, His buddy worked at a hospital and helped him forge them. The remote work during his treatment? Just an excuse to avoid being seen around town looking perfectly healthy. The whole thing was an elaborate scam to get Kate back. You want to know how Kate found out? Thomas's sister ran into her at Whole Foods, started chatting, catching up. Kate mentioned something about Thomas's treatment, and the sister had no idea what she was talking about. Turns out the whole family thought Thomas and Kate had just gotten back together normally. He never told any of them about faking cancer. Kate confronted Thomas about it that night. This asshole just laughed and said, yeah, he made it all up. But it worked, didn't it? Oh, and the best part? He'd been dating his coworker Christina for the past 6 months. He already had plans to move to California with her for a new job. He literally looked Kate in the face and said, I needed you back then, but I'm in a better place now. People change. You should move on too. I couldn't have written a better karma scenario if I tried. I sat there in my truck listening to all this, and you know what the craziest part was? I started laughing, like full-on belly laughing, the kind where you can't breathe. The whole thing was just so absurd. This guy managed to blow up a marriage with the most insane lie I've ever heard, and then just moved on like it was nothing. Kate kept saying how sorry she was, how she couldn't believe she fell for it, how she'd ruined everything for nothing. She was crying about how she'd thrown away our marriage for a lie, that she'd never forgive herself, that she'd been so stupid. You know what I said? Yep, that's it. Then I hung up. My phone kept blowing up for hours after that. Kate sent me this novel-length text about how this was a sign that we were meant to work things out, that maybe this was the universe's way of bringing us back together. She's still on that spiritual bullshit, I guess. I didn't respond to any of it. I just drove to the gym, did some rolling, went home and cracked open a beer with Max. I felt weirdly calm about the whole thing. The next day really hit the fan. Turns out Kate went nuclear. She posted the whole story on Facebook, tagged Thomas, his new girlfriend, everyone. It was like watching a train wreck in real time. The comment section was wild. Thomas's girlfriend Christina found out about everything through the Facebook post, dumped him immediately. His company found out he'd been lying about needing medical leave and fired him. His family was horrified. This dude literally destroyed his entire life just to get back at his ex. The karma was so perfect it almost felt scripted. But after the whole Facebook nuclear explosion, Kate went into full desperation mode. She started showing up at work with coffee. She remembered my order. Cool, I guess. Sending emails to my work account, even tried to get my mom to talk to me. Mom shut that down real quick. She never forgave Kate for what she did. After like a week of this harassment, I finally agreed to meet her. Not because I wanted to reconcile or any of that bullshit, but honestly, just to get her to stop harassing me and my family. I told her to meet me at this coffee shop downtown. I picked it because I knew it would be busy, and she couldn't make a scene without embarrassing herself. The moment she walked in, I knew this was going to be rough. She looked like she hadn't slept in days, wearing one of my old hoodies that she must have kept after moving out. What the fuck? She started crying the second she saw me, which immediately made me uncomfortable. I didn't want to be the asshole making a woman cry in a public coffee shop, but I also wasn't about to comfort her. You guys want to know the first thing she said to me? You look good. Been working out? Like, what the fuck? My response: yeah, turns out getting abandoned by your wife is great motivation for the gym. She didn't appreciate that comment, but whatever. I wasn't there to make her feel better about what she'd done. Then she launched into this whole rehearsed speech about how sorry she was, how she'd never forgive herself, how leaving me was the biggest mistake of her life. She said she thinks about me every day, still keeps pictures of us on her phone, blah, blah, blah. The whole time she was talking, I was just sitting there thinking about how I needed to pick up dog food on the way home. It was surreal listening to her pour her heart out while feeling absolutely nothing in return. But here's the part that really got me. She tried to spin this whole thing as proof of how loyal she could be. She said Thomas's lie proved she was willing to sacrifice everything for someone she cared about. I almost spit out my coffee. I asked her straight up, if she was so loyal, why didn't she show that loyalty to her husband? Why didn't she at least verify Thomas's story? Check his medical records? Talk to his doctors? Actually do any kind of due diligence before blowing up our marriage? She got all defensive, saying she couldn't believe I was still questioning her intentions after everything. Then she said that maybe this was all meant to be. That Thomas's lie was the universe's way of showing us how strong our love was, that we could start fresh now. Stronger for having gone through this test. I lost it at that point. I told her our marriage wasn't some cosmic test run, that real love doesn't mean abandoning your spouse for your ex, that loyalty isn't something you only show to people who are supposedly dying. She tried to grab my hand across the table. Bold move. I pulled back and said, "You know what the worst part is? If Thomas had actually been dying, you'd still be with him right now. You're only here because he turned out to be a liar. I'm still your backup plan." That hit her hard. She started doing that thing where she cries but tries to hide it by looking at the ceiling. She always did that during sad movies too. It used to be endearing, now it just felt manipulative. She said I was being cruel. I told her cruel was leaving your husband of 3 months for your ex without even questioning his story. Then she pulled out the big guns. She started talking about how we could go to couples counseling, how she'd spend the rest of her life making it up to me, how she'd prove she could be trusted again. She said she still had her wedding ring and wore it sometimes. Weird flex, but okay. You know what I did? I laughed. Not like a mean laugh. I just couldn't help it. The whole situation was so absurd. 2 years ago, this woman destroyed me, and now she was sitting here thinking couples counseling could fix it? That we could just pick up where we left off like nothing happened? I told her she needed individual therapy way more than couples counseling. That she needed to figure out why she was so willing to throw away a marriage for someone who turned out to be a pathological liar. That she needed to work on herself before trying to be with anyone. The conversation ended with her asking if there was any chance for us in the future. I said, "Kate, the guy you married died the day you chose Thomas. I'm someone else now." Then I got up and left. Got a text from her an hour later, saying she'd wait for me and prove herself somehow. I left that on read, went home, hugged my dog, and ordered a pizza. That night, I slept better than I had in months, finally feeling like I had real closure. So it's been about 4 months since the whole Thomas faking cancer shit show blew up. I was actually starting to feel good about life again. I started dating this awesome girl, Julia, from my gym. She teaches the morning kickboxing classes. We'd been seeing each other for a few weeks. Nothing super serious yet, but definitely heading that way. She's completely different from Kate. Straightforward, no drama, doesn't believe in all that universe has a plan bullshit. It was refreshing to be with someone so grounded in reality. Then yesterday happened. I was at home cooking dinner. Julia was coming over later when Kate showed up at my door. I hadn't seen her since the coffee shop confrontation. She looked different, and then I realized why. She was pregnant. Like, obviously pregnant, not just a little bump, but unmistakably carrying a child. My first thought was that Thomas had knocked her up before he bailed. But nope. Life isn't that simple. She was holding this envelope, her hands shaking, and told me she was 14 weeks along. I did the math in my head. Right before everything went to shit with Thomas, right before she left. Guys, it's mine. She had a paternity test done already. One of those early blood test things. She showed me the results right there. 99.9% probability I'm the father. She'd been trying to work up the courage to tell me for weeks. I just stood there in my kitchen, holding these test results, while my pregnant ex-wife cried in front of me, and my new girlfriend was on her way over for dinner. I felt like I was having an out-of-body experience or something, like I was watching this happen to someone else. Kate says she found out right after everything imploded with Thomas. She's been going to doctor's appointments alone, didn't tell anyone except her mom. She said she knows this complicates everything, but she thought I had the right to know. At least she got that part right. The fucked up part? Part of me is actually excited, like I always wanted to be a dad. Kate and I had talked about having kids, back when we were actually married. We had all these plans for starting a family in a couple of years. But then I think about everything that happened, about how she left, about Julia, and I feel completely overwhelmed by the complexity of it all. I haven't told Julia yet. Kate just left like an hour ago, and I ended up texting Julia, saying I was sick and needed to rain-check dinner. I've been sitting here with Max, just trying to process everything. How the fuck do you even handle something like this? I keep going back and forth between excitement about becoming a father and absolute terror about what this means for my life going forward. Like, obviously I'm going to be involved in my kid's life. That's not even a question. I've always believed that children deserve to have both parents actively involved, regardless of the relationship between those parents. But co-parenting with someone who abandoned you for their fake dying ex? That's going to be interesting, to say the least. I have no idea how we're supposed to make that work without all the baggage between us affecting our child. Plus, there's Julia. How do you tell someone you just started dating that your ex-wife who left you for her dying ex-boyfriend is pregnant with your kid? It feels like too much to put on someone this early in a relationship. She didn't sign up for any of this drama. We've only been dating for a few weeks, and I really like her, but this is a lot to handle at the beginning of a relationship. It would be completely understandable if she decided this was more than she wanted to deal with. Kate wants to talk about us again. She says maybe this is a sign we should try again, that a baby changes everything. But does it though? Does it change the fact that she left me for her ex without a second thought? Does it change that she only came back when she found out he was lying? Does it change the fundamental breach of trust that happened between us? I don't think having a baby magically fixes those things. And starting a relationship based solely on a child seems like a recipe for disaster. My head is spinning right now. Max keeps bringing me his toys, like he knows I'm freaking out. Good dog. At least he's consistent, unlike the humans in my life. I've been sitting here for hours just trying to make sense of everything, trying to figure out what the right move is. I honestly don't know what to do. Part of me wants to be excited about becoming a dad. I mean, this is huge, right? I'm going to have a child. There's going to be a little person in the world who's half me. That's incredible and terrifying all at once. Part of me is terrified of having to deal with Kate for the next 18+ years. And part of me feels guilty about Julia, who didn't sign up for any of this drama. So what would you guys do? Seriously, how do you co-parent with someone who broke your trust like this? How do you tell your new girlfriend that surprise, you're going to be a dad with your ex? How do you make sure you're there for your kid without getting sucked back into Kate's drama? I feel like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff, and no matter which way I jump, the landing is going to be rough. Edit. Yes, I'm getting a lawyer, not making any more decisions without legal counsel. I learned my lesson the first time around. Edit 2. To everyone suggesting I get another paternity test. Yeah, no shit, already called about that. I'm not taking any chances here, even though the test she showed me looked legitimate. Edit 3. Stop telling me to get back with Kate for the baby. That's not how this works. A child deserves happy, healthy parents, not ones who are together just because they feel obligated. Kids can tell when their parents are miserable together. Edit 4. Jesus Christ, guys, stop DMing me your theories about Kate getting pregnant on purpose to trap me. My head's already fucked up enough. Right now, I need a drink or 10, but I know that's not going to solve anything. I just needed to vent somewhere because this situation is completely overwhelming. Thanks for reading this far if you made it. It feels good to get it all out, even to strangers on the internet. At least writing this all down helped me organize my thoughts a bit. I'll update when I figure out what's next, but right now I'm just taking it one day at a time and trying not to completely lose my mind in the process.